Assalamualaikum. Good morning, my dears pupils of SMK Puncak Alam 3. How are you today? I hope you are okay. English lesson for today, we are going to focus on listening. Come explore listening with Teacher Aidazura, okay? Today's info. We are going to learn lesson 14. Listening. You can refer to download textbook page 24. You are going to guess the legends from Malaysia. Listen to audio about Robin Hood. Check your understanding. Let's explore the art of listening. For today's lesson, the learning objectives is, by the end of the lesson, pupils will be able to identify the specific information and details from the reading audio independently. Success criteria. I am successful if I am able to recognize the variety of legends inside Malaysia, listen to the audio about Robin Hood, and answer at least 10 out of 13 questions given correctly. Are you ready? Okay, do you know her? Did you not watch the movie with M. Nasir as Hang Tuah? Legend has it that during the rule of Sultan Mansur Shah of Malacca, there lived a fairy princess in the magical palace at the peak of Mount Ledang. Tales of her beauty and magic powers travelled near and far, soon reaching the ears of the Sultan. Determined to marry her, the Sultan sent Hang Tuah and his group of warriors to retrieve the Putri from Mount Ledang. Hang Tuah and his troop found the Putri and conveyed the Sultan's proposal. The Putri then gave them 7 conditions for the Sultan to fulfill. A golden walkway from Malacca to mountain, a silver walkway from the mountain to Malacca, 7 trays of mosquito hearts, 7 trays of the hearts of germs, 7 barrels of young bitternut juice, 7 barrels of virgin tears, and a silver cup filled with blood from the Sultan's son, before agreeing to his proposal. Of course, the Sultan was unable to fill these impossible demands, though he did not give it a shot, but ended up leaving his kingdom in total ruin from his efforts. Legend has it the Putri still lives in her magical palace on the peak of Mount Ledang to this day. She is something, right? So she is called Putri Gunung Ledang. Besides Putri Gunung Ledang, there are also variety of legends in Malaysia. For example, Tun Fatimah, Hang Tuah, and Masuri. Okay, let's try and forget that M. Nasir once played a version of the legendary Malayan hero in the big budget of lengthy Putri Gunung Ledang. And let us move more into the field where he has his 4 warrior friends named Hang Jebat, Hang Kasturi, Hang Lekeh, and Hang Lekyu. A modern tale could be reworked from the legend and myth of the 5 strongest warriors and silat masters of the time, sort of like a Malaysian Power Rangers or something like that. Okay, that is Hang Tuah's story. After the legend of Hang Tuah, have you heard the legend of Masuri? Masuri is the young girl and a real-life person who lived in Langkawi. The story was that she was accused of adultery and was executed by stabbing, and her white blood was a sign of her innocence. And the island of Langkawi was cursed for a really long time, with decades of fail. What a tragedy, right? Pity Masuri. Okay, next we go to Tun Fatimah. Tun Fatimah was a daughter of the Bendahara of Malacca in the 16th century, and her beauty had no bounds. During one of her excursions, she fell in love with a commoner, and soon they were wed. Although her father had no objections to the marriage, it was customary for the daughter of the Bendahara to marry the Sultan. This gave the Bendahara's enemies an opportunity to bring him down. They accused him of treason and convinced the Sultan to slaughter all the men in the household, including Tun Fatimah's husband. It might be good to note that the Sultan really wanted to marry her too. The Sultan then took the woman of the household under his protection at the palace and eventually married Tun Fatimah. During her rule, Tun Fatimah exacted revenge on all those who slandered her father, and even led the fight against the Portuguese when they invaded Malacca. It is said, however, that Tun Fatimah never smiled again. This is a tragedy, right? Okay, so now you know already some of the legends in Malaysia, which are Hang Tuah, Masuri, and Futun Fatimah. Crops. Let's move on to the legends of Robin Hood, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty. Do you want to hear their stories? Let me tell you a bit about Cinderella. In a faraway, long-ago kingdom, Cinderella is living happily with her mother and father until her mother dies. Cinderella's father remarries a cold, cruel woman who has two daughters, Drizella and Anastasia. When the father dies, Cinderella's wicked stepmother turns her into a virtual servant in her own house. Meanwhile, across town in the castle, the king determines that his son, the prince, should find a suitable bride and provide him with a required number of grandchildren. So the king invites every eligible maiden in the kingdom to a fancy dress ball, where his son will be able to choose his bride. Cinderella has no suitable party dress for a ball, but her friends, the mice, led by Jake and Gus, and the birds, lend a hand in making her one a dress the evil stepsisters immediately tear apart on the evening of the ball. At this point, enter the fairy godmother, the pumpkin carriage, the royal ball, the stroke of midnight, the glass slipper, and the rest, as they say, is fairy tale story. What about Sleeping Beauty? Sleeping Beauty is a classic fairy tale about a prince, princess, and evil witch, and how good always triumphs over evil. Sleeping Beauty is a story about a girl who was stabbed with the spindle and befell the old curse from the evil fairy. She fell asleep for 100 years, and it could be saved only by the brave prince. Although the story of the evil witch sounds cruel, fairy tales will always be popular in the daily lives in our children. So they are legends, right? So are you ready to hear about Robin Hood? Is he a hero? Let's explore. In this task, you are going to hear someone talking about the legend of Robin Hood, a character who lived in England around the year 1300. Listen to the first part of the talk and circle the correct words. You can refer to Listening Activity 1, page 24.
Unit 2. Listening. Exercise 1.
Robin Hood was a legendary character from medieval England. Legend has it that he lived in Sherwood Forest, near Nottingham, with a group of friends, finding food and shelter there and stealing from rich travellers who passed by. Because of this, he and his team of men were known as outlaws, that is, criminals who were wanted by the authorities. The man in charge of the area at the time was the Sheriff of Nottingham, and Robin Hood and the Sheriff were famous enemies. However, although Robin Hood and his men were criminals, they have always been considered the heroes of the people, because the legend says that they used to steal money from the rich and give it to the poor.
Okay, let's check the answers. Listening Activity 1, page 24. Number 1. According to the legend, Robin Hood lived in Sherwood Forest. Yes, correct. Number 2. Robin Hood lived in the forest with his family or friends. Yes, correct again. With his friends. 3. An outlaw is a criminal who is wanted by or working with the authorities. Yes, you should cross wanted by. Number 4. Robin Hood and the Sheriff of Nottingham were well known to be enemies. Good job. Last, the legend says that Robin Hood used to steal from the, again you are correct, from the rich. So is he a hero? Let us try another activity. Try activity 3. Now listen to the whole of the speech about the legend of Robin Hood. For question 1 until 8, complete the sentences with a word or short phrase. Are you ready? Let's try.
Exercise 3.
Robin Hood was a legendary character from medieval England. Legend has it that he lived in Sherwood Forest, near Nottingham, with a group of friends, finding food and shelter there and stealing from rich travellers who passed by. Because of this, he and his team of men were known as outlaws, that is, criminals who were wanted by the authorities. The man in charge of the area at the time was the Sheriff of Nottingham, and Robin Hood and the Sheriff were famous enemies. However, although Robin Hood and his men were criminals, they have always been considered the heroes of the people, because the legend says that they used to steal money from the rich and give it to the poor. People have been fascinated by the legend of Robin Hood for over 700 years. However, nobody knows for sure whether Robin Hood was a real person or a myth, and if he was a real person, then who was he? Most of the evidence we have comes from songs and poems that were written from around the year 1400 onwards. In the days before television, radio, and even books, news and stories would be passed down in this way, and a character called Robin Hood was certainly very well known as a famous outlaw at that time. Another source is the official records of the period, one of which says that a man called Robert Hood was working as a servant for King Edward II, who ruled from 1284 to 1327. One problem that historians have, however, is that Robin or Robert and Hood were very common names in medieval times, so it's difficult to prove whether any of these men was the Robin Hood of the legend. Although Sherwood Forest is generally assumed to be where Robin lived, several early poems also indicate that an outlaw of the same name lived in South Yorkshire, which is a little way north of Nottingham. As the two areas are quite close, and Robin may have moved around to escape the authorities, it's quite possible that he lived in both areas. We don't even know exactly when he lived. We have the official record connecting a Robert Hood with King Edward II, but later theories connect him to a different king, King John, who ruled a whole century earlier. Despite the confusion, Robin Hood and the other characters in the legend have remained popular until today, and they attract thousands of tourists to Nottingham and Sherwood Forest every year. Many films and TV series have been made about the outlaw who fought for the common people and against the rich rulers of the time. There is even an organisation in modern-day New York City called Robin Hood, which continues Robin's mission by giving financial support to the poor. Although we may never solve the mystery of who Robin Hood really was, his legend lives on.
Okay, let's check the answers. Number 1. The legend says that Robin Hood would steal money from wealthy travelers. Yes, you got it right. Okay, wealthy travelers passing through Sherwood Forest. Number 2. Although there were really criminals, Robin Hood and his men were actually thought of as heroes. Yes, because they helped the poor. Number 3. The legend of Robin Hood has interested people for over 700 years. Correct again. Move on to number 4. Before modern communications, people used to pass down news and stories using songs and poems. Good job. Next, number 5. King Edward II was King of England from 1284 to 1327. You got it correct. Number 6. South Yorkshire is an area which is a short distance to the north of Nottingham. Correct. Number 7. King John ruled England a whole century, or you can write it as a century, before King Edward II. Last, number 8. Robin Hood is a popular character in films and on television because he helped the common people and was against the wealthy rulers of the period. Good job! Okay, we are moving towards the end of the lesson. So the summary of today's class is, for learning objectives, by the end of the lesson, pupils will be able to identify the specific information and details from the reading audio independently. Success criteria. I am successful if I am able to recognize the variety of legends inside Malaysia. Yes, you did that. You recognize Hang Tuah, Masuri, Tun Fatimah, and Puteri Gunung Ledang. Okay, next. Listen to the audio about Robin Hood and answer at least 10 out of 13 questions given correctly. So just now, we had 2 activities of listening about Robin Hood. And you did great job. Thank you very much. So the outcome and our expectation is there. Before I end the class for today, here I share a quote about listening. Let's read together. Listening is the secret to discover great stories. So today you have discovered so many legend stories. Okay? Thank you for joining today's class. Teacher Aidazura is signing off. Hope you enjoyed today's lesson on listening. See you again. Bye-bye. Assalamualaikum.